But it seems like some companies just check the box.
Exactly.
Oh, we have a
Exactly.
DEI program, but in reality,
There's
the
nothing
same people are
happening.
getting the
It's the
positions, the
same
same
Yeah.
people.
people are
There's no
getting the
difference.
opportunities, but they're checking the box. What are your thoughts on that?
First, I want to answer your first question about why people get frustrated with the acronym, right? Oftentimes it's because it's not well defined. Diversity in itself is just placing people in buckets. You know, the slave plantations were diverse too,
Sure.
right? If
Sure.
that's how we want to
Look
get
at it. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. But
Yeah.
was there equity? Were
Right.
people
Right.
included in any decision making? Were the enslaved Africans seen as people? Were they valued? No. So diversity alone doesn't do anything.
Good.
What's going on, family? We're having too much fun over here. Welcome to the More You Know podcast with Key and Will.
Welcome back, you guys, to the More You Know podcast. We are so happy to have you here today. Make sure you remember to hit the like and subscribe. And especially on today's podcast, make sure you comment.
We super excited. We're always super excited, but today we have an amazing guest.
Thank you.
Hermence
Thank you.
Matsosa.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
That's
Thank
it.
you for coming. Can y'all give it up for her?
Beautiful name for a beautiful person. We're so excited to have you with us today,
Thank you.
and especially to talk about today's topic.
So listen, today's topic is, we talk about a lot of different things here. Particularly, we want to make sure our audience understands and is aware of a lot of things, whether it's health and wellness, finance. But today we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how that impacts multiple communities, how it impacts the workplace, all that stuff. And Hermence has years and years of experience with that, so we're so excited to have her in here to break it down for us. You know,
As best as I can.
as best as you can, because I know diversity, DEI is sort of the term there. That has a lot of positive and negative feelings that people have for it.
Yeah, strong feelings.
Strong feelings. You start talking about DEI, it's like
Yeah.
So, but before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I call myself the global interconnector.
Ooh. Oh,
And,
wait. Say
Yeah, so
say
the
that one more
global
time.
interconnector.
Ooh, I
So,
like that.
Yeah, and
And I'm sure we're going to talk about
yeah.
that is.
Yeah, and so for me, I am multicultural, born in Gabon, Central Africa, near Angola.
Oh, wow, nice.
And my father's American and my mother's Gabonese, and we moved here to the United States. So I grew up in the US. However, we were blessed to go back and forth. So my summers were spent in Africa, in Gabon.
Right.
And because my family also traveled a lot with the work that my father did, I had the wonderful opportunity of just going to different places and meeting new people. And so that's why I call myself the global interconnector.
That in itself is a blessing, because as I got older, I realized exposure can change your life.
Yeah.
And I try
Makes a
to
difference.
talk to the young folks and say, hey, get out of your environment, get out of what you know, and see there's a bigger world out there. So and you're a product of that.
Very much so, because you don't know what you don't know.
That's true.
Right? And so when you are not exposed to other environments and other people and other cultures and have those experiences, then you really are just stuck where you are, and you can't help but to think that life is what you're living.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, it's really important to experience other places and experience other people. And I've been blessed to have had that opportunity.
So is that what led you to what you do today?
How did you
Very
get into
much
that
so.
space of
Very
DEI?
much so. Yeah, so because, as I said, my father was a Peace Corps volunteer, traveled, and that's where he met my mother. So it was just naturally that I would follow in his footsteps and become a volunteer myself. And even before I became a volunteer, I spun the globe and it landed on Ecuador.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I'm tired of college, so I'm just gonna go to Ecuador.
Wow.
And my father was like, you don't speak Spanish. I was like, but it's a language. Right? And literally that's what I did. I left my junior year. I, put school on hold, college on hold,
Okay.
and I enrolled myself in a program that would go to Ecuador and do reforestation work.
Oh,
Mind you, I don't know nothing about reforestation at the time, but I just wanted to be out of the country, meet new people.
sure, sure.
And so I did that, came back to the States realizing I needed more experiences like that
Now, how long were you in Ecuador?
for a year.
For a year.
For a year. And
Okay.
that's where I learned Spanish.
Okay.
And so went to Togo, and while I was, there for 3.5 years,
Okay.
and came back to the U.S. with all the lessons I had learned, especially when it comes to culture and the diverse cultures that exist on the continent of Africa. But even in that country, that small country of Togo, various different cultures. And I realized that we have more in common than different, right? Than not.
Oh,
But at
yeah.
the same time, instead of calling things different, it was unique, like the uniqueness of what we bring.
I love that.
And and so that led me to then working with the government and doing global health work, because I was doing that, but I was training people on how to work with other people from different cultures, right? And training people how to connect, how to communicate, because it's one thing to have all the expertise, which as Americans, we often think we know it all, right?
We do.
Right.
Of course.
But then it's another thing to find yourself in another country, in another community where people care less about what you know and more about how you treat them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Less about, I love,
Yeah.
I want to say that again because I really want that to resonate.
Yeah.
They care less about
What you know,
and
and
more
more about how you treat them.
and how you make them feel.
Yeah,
right?
and how you make them feel. And that's something that's lost on a lot of people when they travel, when they do international development work and global health work. They go with this idea that I'm just going to complete my mission,
Sure,
right?
sure.
But they don't go in with this idea that I'm going to connect with the people that are going to help me complete my mission.
Right.
And so that was my work for quite some years. With the Centers for Disease Control, WHO, UNICEF, all these big global health agencies, as well as, of course, the Peace Corps. And I was the one they sent in oftentimes before to connect with the community, because I speak
it together first.
Yeah, exactly. So because I speak French and I speak Spanish and I speak
wow.
English, and
Okay.
then those languages I don't speak, I'm able to find someone in the community and be able to connect with them so that they can interpret for me.
Sure.
And that's what I
awesome.
was doing. And my key thing, oftentimes I would tell my colleagues, is that you have to make people feel as though you see them, you value them, you respect them, and you treasure whatever information they're going to be giving you.
That sounds like just relationships, period.
Exactly.
And not necessarily anything that, specific to DEI, although I
Right.
know, yes. But it just sounds like, just be a good person.
Right, be a
and
good
treat
person.
people accordingly. And with respect.
Yeah, one of my great mentors, Tanya Morris, and she does, DEI work. I mean, she's Simply HR is her consulting firm, and not about how you people the way you want to be treated, but she states it's about treating people the way they have told you they want to be treated.
Okay.
And that is lost on a lot of us.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? And so when it comes to DEI, oftentimes these initiatives, these programs start off with, how would I want to be treated?
Sure,
What kind of
sure.
equity would I like to have? How do I want to be identified? But it's not that. It's about the people you're working with. That person who comes to work, how do they want to be identified?
So a lot of things going through my mind right now.
Yeah.
So
You're in so many spaces.
So at the top of the conversation,
Yeah.
we talked about DEI. We said people get really sensitive about it.
Yes.
And I think that may be part of it. Why do you think that is, that folks are, when they hear DEI, some people are like, what's your thoughts on that? Because the idea is to create more diversity and equity within the workplace so that you can have different views and share different, but it seems like some companies just check the box.
Exactly.
Oh, we have a
Exactly.
DEI program, but in reality,
There's
the
nothing
same people are
happening.
getting the
The same
positions, the
same
same
people.
people are
There's no
getting the
difference.
opportunities, but they're checking the box. So, what are your thoughts on that?
First, I want to answer your first question about why people get frustrated with the acronym, right? Oftentimes it's because it's not well defined, right? Diversity in itself is just placing people in buckets,
Okay.
right? And I say this sometimes when I have my trainings. The slave plantations were diverse too,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
If that's how we want to
Look
get
at it. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. But was
Yeah.
there equity? Were
Right,
people
right.
included in any decision making? Were the enslaved Africans seen as people? Were they valued? No. So diversity alone doesn't do anything, right? People don't want so much more of, they want representation. They want to be represented at all tables, right? They want individuals who will speak with them. And if
Sure,
they're not
sure.
there, will speak adequately for them.
Right.
And so you have two things. You have organizations where they say, diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI is not working. It has failed. And I'm like, no, it hasn't failed. You've given up on it. And you have chosen not to understand the why behind why it's needed.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so, there's a lot of attack on it, right? And people are saying, but people see DEI as race and gender
They do.
identity.
Yes.
Right?
That's-
Because I've yet to meet someone in all the work, regardless of what they look like, where they're from, who wants to show up at work and not be respected and not be valued and not be included. I've yet to meet that person.
That's true.
Right? And so if you speak alone on just inclusion, right, and accessibility, then most organizations, leaders have no problem about that. But they don't want to talk about diversity, and they don't want to talk about the belonging piece, because then they're saying, if I say belonging means, oh, I think you should be at the table. But reality, because of our history, people are not yet comfortable talking about why we need more representation and why we think people belong. So until we get real with that conversation.
And so that's what I was just going to say.
Exactly.
It sounds like you're saying have those hard conversations.
Have those hard
Have those
conversations.
real
Real.
and those difficult
Right.
conversations about, well, why? Not just checking the box
Yes.
and let's have an engagement or an activity where we all feel included and then we walk away and nothing happens beyond that.
Let's recognize that hurt people hurt others.
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, in the workplace, there's a lot of people that are walking around hurt.
More than you would know, I'm seeing that a lot lately, and I think a lot after COVID. Honestly, after 2020, it was really more prevalent. It seemed.
I wouldn't say it was more prevalent. It's just that people stopped caring about what it looked like. I
Sure,
worked in
sure.
places where I always say a sister had to put her mask on pretty tightly before she even went into the office, so that it makes sure that it didn't crack. And then sometimes, and I'll speak for myself, I would go into my car during my break, take that mask off and bawl because I was being mistreated in the workplace.
Wow.
And so what happened is that COVID revealed that your health is more important, your psyche, your mental. Like people started realizing, oh my goodness, I just lost my best friend.
Right.
And for 10, 15 years, she was in a place that was miserable. And they replaced her 5 minutes after they heard her. So people realize that I deserve more. And I'm not going to lie about the conditions that I'm in. And I expect my organization to do something about it.
To support that.
Yeah.
Let's back up and talk about your company. So let's fast forward from, kind of how you landed in that space of DEI and started your company. So tell us a little bit about your company, why and how you started it.
Yeah, so my company is Ubuntu, or Ubuntu Speaks, otherwise known as Ubuntu. And so Ubuntu is the South African philosophy of human interconnectedness.
Wow.
And we say, I am who I am because we all are. Because I grew up with this philosophy. In Africa, this philosophy has different names, right? Ubuntu is the name from South Africa, right? But I grew up with this idea that no one person can be successful alone. It takes a community, and that we are intrinsically tied and connected to each other. And for me, it was really important for people to understand that and realize that without the knowledge of being connected, then we're always continuously going to be doing the same thing over and over and hurting each other in the process.
It's a vicious cycle.
Exactly. And so I left CDC, the government, after so many years of working with the government, so many years of doing global health work, and I started. My baby girl had come along, and she was born premature, so she required a lot in the beginning. And I said, I want to make a different impact. And as you know, COVID happened shortly after. And I realized that people wanted an outlet and were hurting.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't just COVID alone, right? It was from their past experiences. And then George Floyd happened also. And then it was just like, okay, how can I contribute to getting people to understand that marginalized populations, especially here in the United States, but also globally, are tired of being devalued, dehumanized. And that's where I came to the work that I'm doing now, because that's, at the end of the day, that's my goal. My goal is to work with executives, leaders who are supposed to lead with inclusivity, who are supposed to respect their workforce because their workforce makes who they are.
Sure.
Right? But lack the skills to do so.
Or don't even understand.
And don't even why.
Exactly.
What,
why, how,
who. And I tell them, people have options now. The trend is people are leaving their jobs to be entrepreneurs.
That's right. Yeah.
The trend is social media and technology has made it that you can possibly make more money doing that.
That's true.
20, 30 minutes a day than being at a job for 8 hours, 9 hours and being mistreated. So why should they stay with you?
So help me understand, or help our viewers understand, how does it work? Do you seek, or do you find opportunities, or someone refers them to you, or hopefully our corporate America leaders are smart enough to reach out to seek this assistance? I'm hoping it's the latter, but it probably isn't.
Honestly, I came into this thinking that it would be easier because more people want that, right?
You would hope.
Yeah. Unfortunately, as a small business owner, an entrepreneur, in this field, that's not the case. So I have to actively do social marketing, right? I have to let people know that I'm there.
Sure.
A lot of my work comes from referrals, right? People who've seen me do work, know me from the time that I was in government, saw me on stages, and know my passion, and then they refer me to other people. Also, work comes from, other DEI entrepreneurs and partnerships and collaborations. But unfortunately, what's happening is, companies, big companies are hiring DEI directors.
Right.
And managers and supervisors.
They're almost a part.
Exactly, because
a part of the organization.
Right. They're doing that, but they're not giving them the resources to be able to effectively lead the programs.
I can see that.
So that is why there's another growing trend is you see a lot of DEI directors and specialists and advisors who went into these big corporations and then who are leaving now.
Oh yes.
Yes,
I've
they're
seen
leaving
that.
because they realize it was all for show, right? It was performance.
And that's when I was talking about checking the box. I'm sitting here trying to figure out, because we've all sort of dealt with it sort of in those environments where DEI, they have a sort of champion and we're going to be diverse. And it seems
even now, I think they're part of the C-suite even.
Yeah.
Even beyond the director level, there's the chief diversity
officer,
yeah,
right.
exactly.
Which I think is great, but I think how do we make the connection that it's not just about having different races, sort of physically.
Right.
Oh, I have a
Or
Spanish. I have a
genders.
Spanish person. I have a black person.
Yeah.
Oh, I also have an Asian person. Now we're diverse.
Yeah.
But it's really about culture and understanding the differences of the cultures.
Culture, exactly.
If you can speak on that for a minute.
And I think a component that I didn't think about more before, when you think about DEI, I think honestly my ignorance was around, it's about making black folk feel included or giving us an opportunity to excel in corporate America, right? Or women, or black women, or just the minority, right? But I appreciate you helping me understand more today, and hopefully our viewers are getting it, is that it's about making people in general feel heard, included, a part of, respected, not dismissed.
Exactly.
And so I'm really, appreciative of our conversation today, because now I'm like, oh, it's not about the minority. It's about all of us.
It is. And the thing is recognizing that we, regardless of what shade of brown or shade of peach or shade of whatever, we come with our own sense of being, right? And that is very much cultivated by the culture that we were raised in.
Right.
And the biases that were placed on us as young children, right? And that we've grown and accepted as fact, unfortunately. And so culturally, I explained that I am, born Gabonese, right? I'm a Gabonese American. But because I had the privilege of living in different places, when people ask me, where are you from? And I said, they were like, but I hear an accent. I hear this, the way you look, I was like, I'm a multicultural person. And because of that, I'm able to see things in different perspective, right? I can recognize that someone who's from Jamaica that looks just like someone who's from Ghana or someone who's from Nigeria may not get along, may not understand things, may not understand the plight of African Americans simply because our culture is what plays the role where we're from, right?
Absolutely.
And understanding
and that history that you bring in.
The history of the African American is not the history of the Jamaican American, the
It's
Nigerian
very different.
American. It is. And so if you are not part of that,
Or unique.
It's exactly.
unique.
And if you're not part of that racial group, let's say you're white American, and you have, your staff, and you assume that they all feel the same way about the recent shootings that just happened, or they feel the same way about the brutality, that Black people are happening, or the fact inequity, right? Pay inequity. Without asking them, you're making decisions. Then you're gonna go wrong, because the mindset is different.
Or
The
not
views.
even having the conversation, ignoring
the conversation,
ignoring a major, situation
That's
that's
why
just occurred in
cultural
our community.
competency is really important, right? And I tell individuals, you have to be genuinely interested in someone else's culture, like from the beginning.
Yeah.
Make that happen. How do you make it happen?
Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm trying to, like, how do we make a change?
Genuinely interested,
Because how do we make a change from what the vanilla cookie cutter DEI picture is to where they're really thinking about the differences in cultures, not the differences in race, because within races there are differences. So how do we make that connection?
You start, at least I start with where we all can agree that we all deserve to be treated.
Right.
right.
Yeah.
That we all deserve to be seen, valued, and respected, because that's what makes us feel human.
Right. It's a
And
human
it's
aspect
a
of
human
it.
aspect.
aspect.
And that's
yes.
all.
You know,
yeah,
like,
yeah, that's the
and,
most
and
important.
the thing is, once you stop seeing me as a fellow human being,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how much talking we do, we will never get to a point where we respect each other.
Yeah.
So we start there, and then that is why for me, I am now certified in psychological safety in the workplace. Because for me, that cultural competency and psychological safety are like the foundation to advancing diversity, equity, inclusion.
Okay.
You can't ask people to discuss sensitive issues around diversity, equity, inclusion without them feeling safe to do so.
Do so.
Psychologically safe.
Yeah.
You know, why am I going to share with you how I really feel if I think I'm going to lose my job?
Right. Because what are you going to do with this information that I
Exactly.
provide you?
I don't trust you.
Yeah.
I don't trust you to go around behind my back and stab me, right? I don't trust you.
That's what really happens. I think. I mean, the reality is we care about our jobs. So
It pays the
I'm not.
bills.
I'm
It
not.
pays the bills.
I'm
It
not.
feeds our families,
Yeah.
sends our children to college.
The average person is not going to say to their boss, "You make me feel less than." Now it's like, "Oh, you're a problem."
Yeah, exactly.
There goes your
People are
promotion.
afraid
of
There
being-
goes
You're playing the race
now
card. You're
playing,
playing
and
all
then
of that.
I'll retaliate.
Yeah,
even
so
though
I-
I'm the angry
retaliate.
black woman.
yeah,
all
so
of that.
I think we need to get to that point where we can accept responses that may not make us feel
Yeah.
warm and fuzzy if it's the truth, right?
As leaders.
As leaders,
in
we need
corporate
to
America,
accept
yeah.
and be. It needs to be respect
Or in the
there,
environment.
but
And then-
someone should have that transparent and say, "Hey, this is
Right.
how I'm feeling,
Exactly.
and could you respect
Yeah,
that?"
there has to be a level of vulnerability. Recognizing that leaders themselves have a personal risk and a professional risk. And oftentimes leaders feel threatened by their employees or people within their teams who are who are contributing in ways that they really know they can't contribute.
Yeah.
So their leaders entitle. And whenever you have a leader that's entitled, who their title should really be manager
Yeah.
and not leader, because
Yeah.
what they do is micromanage and do
Yeah,
all of
yeah,
those
yeah,
things.
yeah.
You don't manage people, you lead people. You manage programs and things, and that's where people get it mixed up.
I love that.
And so when someone finds themselves in an environment where they are being managed, it stunts their innovation, it stunts their ability, it stunts their growth. But if they're in an environment where they feel safe, they feel included, they feel safe to learn and to grow, safe to contribute in a way that brings about innovation, and then more importantly, safe to challenge the status quo. Right? To tell their boss, you know what, that idea is great. However, here are the gaps in your thought.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And that
this
be
is how I see,
received.
and that be received. How many leaders sit back and say, I want someone to tell me what's wrong with what I just said? Not many. Not many are vulnerable to say, I don't know. I don't
That's
have
true.
the answers.
Yeah, that's true.
I want someone to lead today.
Yeah.
So when you don't have that, when you don't have psychological safety, then DEI programs are people going to give up on DEI programming, right? They're going to give up on, and then that's when it becomes race and gender identity. Because people are going to say, you know what? When we were together in the office, I was Billy. Now, virtually, I'm Suzanne. And you need to deal with that.
Okay.
Because I'm in my comfort zone
Yeah,
at
yeah,
home.
Yeah.
And I'm showing up today as Suzanne.
Sure.
And my pronouns, these are my pronouns.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And expect that to be respected and
expect that to be
received.
received.
And you don't
if you
change
don't
how you are
understand,
with
right,
me. Yeah.
Just because you don't understand why someone would choose such an identity doesn't mean they don't have the right to choose that identity.
Yeah.
Just because you don't understand why someone would be proud of their culture, their race, doesn't mean that they shouldn't be respected for choosing that,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
exhibiting that.
Right.
And it becomes a problem when you feel as though someone's less than for trying to be who they are. Yeah.
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 Wow. Woo, that's a lot to unpack. So tell me,
You can tell I'm passionate about this.
and
right?
I rightfully so, certainly rightfully so. I love it, and you're so well versed about it.
Oh, thank you.
And the passion makes me passionate. I'm like, ooh, well, well, what can I do? I do still operate in corporate America, so I see everything that you're talking about, all those challenges, and I'm often like, what are we gonna do? What do we do differently?
Like, how do we tell people we love wearing our hair like this?
Yeah.
And it's sad because normally, and I think this is what the universe and whoever you pray to would want, is that your worth is in your existence. You don't have to prove your worthiness.
Right.
Someone should not have to prove that they're worthy of being present and living life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And so when it shouldn't be expensive to be yourself.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It shouldn't
It
be
be expensive to be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because her hair and how she chooses to wear her hair does not stop her from contributing and performing the way she has always contributed and performed.
She's the same person who's been coming every day.
And my thing is, I've been in places where sister girl came with green hair, white woman came with green hair,
Yep.
and no policy was sent. But my afro was like,
It's a little too much.
In the 60s.
Hermence, that's a little too much.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, so
Now you're seen as aggressive just because of the hair on your head or how you present it. Your person.
yeah. But that's the thing, and that's like when we embrace our culture, it reminds certain people of their history
That's right.
and how we fought, and we're still here. We're still here.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that is a thorn in so many people's side. The fact that you know the history, wink, wink.
Yeah.
We know the history. We know how you're trying to cover up that history.
Yes,
but we're
yeah.
still standing.
And there's some guilt there as well.
Of course, and we're still
some guilt there.
standing.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, how do we maneuver this life, right? And the best advice I can give a sister, a brother, whoever, just regardless, is that at the end of the day, it should not be expensive to be yourself.
Yeah.
But if you have to pay, understand that eventually you will not have anything else to pay with.
I get that. I totally get that.
It is important for organizations to realize that people are tired. And eventually they will leave.
They will. And they do.
And they do.
If someone were to, request your services, your very valuable services. What is tell me the top two things. I know that there's a wide variety of what you do when you come in, but what are the top two things that you initially come in to an organization or whatever that space is? How do you start to make that change?
Well, what I do first is I have a candid conversation with you as to why you want to bring me in the first place.
Oh.
So you trying to check the box? Then you know what?
I like that you have that
I may not be the one for you.
Sure.
And if we start there, know that eventually you will have to go beyond checking the box. I really, I say, when people say, well, we want to do this, I'm like, why? What's the why behind you choosing to do this work? Is it because you want a performance? You want to say that you're one of those organizations who's doing DEIA work? Or is it that you really care about your employees and you want to be that inclusive leader who wants to lead and not manage, who wants to trust and inspire and not degrade? Yeah.
I love
Right?
that.
So having those and then what I do is a cultural assessment. So a cultural facilitation where I love doing focus groups, where I say, well, if you really trust me to do this, let me meet with your staff and find out where you really are, what they really think about you. And then I'll give you a report as to really what kind of work you need.
They'll be like, can I be there? Can I be there?
Exactly.
I want to make sure I can oversee.
And
I'm watching everybody.
Exactly. And that's the thing, because we need a starting point. Not every organization's the same, right? Why should the same thing be done? Right. So it's important to have, and then buy-in is really important, because you have a lot of people who are giving up on DEI. So I come in and I say, I recognize that you might have given up on it. Let's talk about the why. Let's talk about how we can do heart work. Right? Instead of mind work all the time.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so cultural facilitation is one of the services that I do. Again, the training and then coaching. Okay. I like being able to do one-on-one with people and understand how they are showing up, why they're showing up, what their personal risk is, what their professional risk, and then how they want to contribute. How do they want to contribute to the whole effort? And then from there, we build what is tailor fit for your organization as opposed to general.
So how can people find you? What's your LinkedIn, website, social media, all that?
So I am all over LinkedIn. So definitely you can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Hermence Matsosa
All right.
on LinkedIn. And then my website is ubuntuworkforce.com.
Awesome.
That's for the U.S. side, but if globally, it's Ubuntu Speaks. LLC.com.
Okay, we're going to check out both of those.
Yes. So that website, you see me doing all my travels and the work that I've done in the public. And then, of course, for Ubuntu Workforce. And so, those are my website. And then you can email me at Hermence, HERMENCE, at ubuntuworkforce.com. And call me. I pick up the phone.
She picks up the phone.
I pick up the phone.
I've heard of anymore. We're going to test you.
I pick up the phone. So 202, I still got my DC number. 202-421-9184.
Awesome. This was amazing. It just makes you think about so much.
Thank you so much for asking.
Yes.
I love
this. We'll have to do a part 2.
Oh, yeah.
But there's one little thing.
We have a surprise guest.
Oh, yeah.
We have a surprise guest.
Yes.
So,
let me see.
Listen.
One of the smartest
young ladies. When you see this young lady.
My heart.
Make sure you check out our next episode with the brilliant Soleo Cross.